Hello, Gold participants from around the world. I'm Fleur Bickford, Program Director and MC for Gold Learning. I'm chatting today with Dr. Christina Smillie about her upcoming presentation for Gold Perinatal 2016 titled Feeding the Tiny Preemie, Supporting NICU Families with Evidence and Compassion. So welcome, Tina. Thank you for being with us today.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Fleur.
So I am very excited about your upcoming presentation, but before we talk about that, perhaps you could share a little bit about yourself and why you're so passionate about families and the care they receive in the NICU.
Sure. I'm a regular pediatrician who's done breastfeeding medicine for the past 20 years, primarily with babies after they've been discharged from the hospital. And so I'm used to relatively healthy babies and healthy mothers learning about breastfeeding. And my daughter, who was actually the co-author of this talk, it was a medical student who had already been through her rotation in the NICU and her rotation through high-risk OB when she suddenly and by surprise had a 28-week preemie. And both of us got quite an education about the transition to motherhood that happens for a new mom when she starts out her family in the NICU. So that even though she was quite prepared technologically and scientifically for understanding what was going on with her baby, it was quite an education to learn. It was quite an emotional roller coaster to understand what it felt like for my daughter as well as me as a new grandmother.
Yeah, I'm sure that that must have been quite an adjustment. I mean, the adjustment to motherhood is difficult even with a full-term baby for a lot of mothers and parents and grandparents. And so, having a baby unexpectedly in the NICU has got to be quite an overwhelming experience.
Yeah, I think it really was, and I think part of the issue was that at least in the NICU where she was, where people wanted to be understanding of mother's role, in general, the roles that they had required them to be more focused on the baby and the more technological side of keeping the baby alive, and not as aware even of the impact that the NICU culture has on a mother trying to start a family.
Okay, so you've actually just partially answered my next question, which was what do you feel are the biggest barriers when it comes to families receiving evidence-based care and compassion in the NICU? And I think certainly the focus is different for the healthcare providers, where their main job is to keep those babies alive and stable and healthy. And like you just said, I think often the other aspect of it gets missed, helping parents with their adjustment to parenthood. So what do you think are some of the barriers there?
Well, I mean, basically, I mean, there's three different perspectives, really. I mean, I boil it down to three. There's probably, 1,000 different perspectives, but there's the NICU staff perspective who are always wanting to be very caring and concerning about the mother, don't get me wrong, but they nevertheless do have to have this perspective about taking care of the scientific and physiologic and pathologic side of protecting the babies. Um, and then there is the perspective that I came from as a pediatrician, not a neonatologist, whose work with breastfeeding comes from a position of health, the presumption that holding is a good thing, that skin contact is a good thing, that breastfeeding is a good thing, and it comes from the perspective that this is a healthy thing rather than simply a healthy behavior that's not just about nutrition, but about mother-baby interaction and mother-baby bonding. Um, and I think that breastfeeding, while very valued in the NICU, is more about the nutritional side of it. Um, and then there's also the mother's perspective, which is just about starting her family in an environment where she is really the outsider, uh, basically as a guest in somebody's workplace, rather than the staff recognizing that they, in some senses, are a guest in the mother's new living room, which is the NICU, that she's starting her family there. And I think there's a lot of discrepancy of just, when you understand a place as a workplace, it's different from understanding that this mother is actually getting her family started in this environment where she
Yeah.
doesn't have as much control over the kinds of things that she would have control over if it was her living room.
So interesting to consider those different perspectives. And I love what you just said about, the healthcare providers being a guest in the mother's new living room. That's such an amazing way to look at it. Um, I really love that. So really looking forward to learning more about all of this in your upcoming presentation. So perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about what you hope delegates will be able to take away from your presentation and take back with them to their own practices.
Well, I'm really hoping that I don't know what the different backgrounds are going to be of the different delegates, but I would hope that whatever a person's background came from, that they would start seeing a little bit more deeply the perspective of the of somebody else. I mean, I'm talking about, oh, I would like the NICU nurses to recognize not only being compassionate about a mother being scared of all the lines and whatnot, but being aware of the mother getting started with motherhood in this difficult environment. But I would also like lactation consultants and people who are seeing babies after discharge to have a better understanding of why NICU staff and neonatologists do what they do. So I would like to see mutual respect all the way around of understanding and just recognizing that we have these different perspectives. There's reason for it, and just to be able to understand the baby's and the mother's relationship in view of all those different interacting things.
Okay, thank you so much. It sounds fantastic, and I know all of our delegates are going to be very excited to hear more about it. So for our delegates who are listening, you can hear more from Dr. Christina Smillie on Tuesday, October 25th at 2300 UTC. Be sure to check out our goldperinatal.com website for more information and to figure out the timing in your own time zone for that presentation. And we look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now, everyone.